5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And no, you're not mistaken. This is a Wednesday night. We've got a special episode here with the launch of Skeleton Crew on Disney+. We didn't want to wait too long before we got into it, so we're doing a little episode Wednesday night. But I wasn't here last week, and yet when I come into the studio, it's got a very strong Hallmarky smell to it. And I need to find out why. And I think I know somebody who has the answer. He is the Jedi Master of Hallmark films, the one and only Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
This is my little Hallmark watching movie buddy right here, Mr. Yoda. Look at that. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I am doing good. I am excited to talk a little Skeleton Crew. But can you explain the smell? Can you explain the smell?
No, just got to live with it. Sorry.
Yeah,
we missed it last week though, but Lacey and I were able to hold down the fort. So.
Yeah, well, you guys did a great job. I was able to watch a little bit of it. You didn't take us too out of the time stream, and you know what? I promise you, I'm not a clone. So. But you mentioned Lacey. Speaking of, we can never have a culture clash without the queen of movie foo. So once again, welcome the wonderful Lacey Adderhold.
Hello.
Lacey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited.
Can you explain the smell, Lacey?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are covering Star Wars tonight. We're discussing the newest Star Wars entity, Skeleton Crew, which means I got to bring in a Star Wars expert. Not that we don't know our Star Wars around here, but the guy who I'm about to bring in.
This guy's a full-on Star Wars nerd. I love him.
Let me just put it this way: he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he is the host.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, he is the host of Star Wars Stuff and a great friend of the network, the one and only Dave Lozano.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Thanks again for having us on your live reaction show the other night. Appreciate that. That was fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You guys are always welcome.
Oh, we always, and you're always welcome here. We're always glad to have you, but we are getting ready with some culture clash here because it is on the Fandom Podcast Network. And of course, this is the flagship show of the Fandom Podcast Network. We bring you the latest news, reviews, and whatever fun stuff we can come up with. And this, like I said, this episode, it's about Skeleton Crew. It's here. We got our first 2 episodes. It even dropped early for us, Kevin.
Yeah, that was really neat. I don't know why they did it, but we speculated that they decided to do it kind of like on the last holiday where kids weren't back at school yet, at least not in our area, and it was still Cyber Monday. People were still shopping and stuff like that. So I think they were like, you know what, let's just push this out early. Let's get some extra burn on it. And I think it was a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. And before we go any farther, just a reminder, we are entering a massive spoiler alert zone. Not only are we going to be doing the deep dive into the first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew, but we also have our favorite segments around here, including Let's News and Buy It, Stream It, or See It. And we got some things we're going to spoil and buy it, stream it, or see it too. So be ready. Kevin, should I let you push the button? Because
way ahead of you.
Okay. Well, now that you just blasted us into hyperspace again. We have got a lot of fun things to do tonight, but first we're going to tell you a little bit about what's happening around the Fandom Podcast Network because we've got so much going on. It's a lot of fun and a lot of
stuff, a lot of nerdy stuff.
Yeah, and of course, if you hop onto our YouTube channel or listen to our audio podcast, you will find the last couple episodes of Culture Clash. We did a little Fandom Oblivion and continued our spotlight on time travel. Kevin, last week I wasn't here, but you and Lacey made a bunch of clones.
Yeah, we covered the kind of lost Schwarzenegger film, The Sixth Day, which was a really good movie about cloning. And it took place, even though it came out in 2000, it was supposed to take place in 2015. And it's a fun actioneer. I like it. Lacey and I had a lot of fun going over that.
Yes.
And hello to Terrapool. She feels like she's one of us cool kids now. She's probably cooler than us. I'm just saying. But
welcome, Terrapool.
Yeah. Also, too, we continued our time travel spotlight with The Time Machine, a movie Kevin had feelings about.
Yes, you'll have to listen or watch that to see what those feelings were.
And of course, Kevin, over at Union Federation, where we're covering all things Star Trek in the Orville, we got, of course, covering the final season of Lower Decks, which I'm still heartbroken over. But you also manned up a very special series at Union Federation before Lower Decks hit, discussing all the two-parters of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, Star Trek TNG is known for is those great 8 two-part episodes. Some of them cliffhangers, of course, and we covered all those. It was a great way to get back and kind of feed our nostalgia for Next Generation.
And of course, over at the Lethal Mullet, our good friend Adam O'Brien is a huge Dune fan, so he is all over Dune Prophecy. He has covered the first 3 episodes already. If you need to get your spice on, check out Adam's episodes of Mullet Guild, Dune Prophecy. And of course, too, he just released his latest regular episode of Lethal Mullet, going back to Zack Snyder's Watchmen, a film that I know garners a lot of debate and discussion. It's a great episode. Check that out. Also, too, Marvel's been a little quiet. It's Star Wars turned into Disney rotation, but we did cover everything that was Agatha all along on our True Believers podcast. And Time Warp. We have just put out recently the November episode of Time Warp, where we covered some classics like Nightmare on Elm Street, Missing in Action, Supergirl, Night of the Comet, and even a little Caravan of Courage for our Star Wars fans who might be watching tonight. And Kevin, you're gearing things up for our December episode.
Yeah, it's the final episode of covering the year of 1984, holiday episode as well. We'll also be discussing the awards, what movies in 84 won Oscars and Golden Globes and Razzies.
They're the most important ones, the Razzies. Those are usually the best films.
Yeah.
All I'm
I
saying.
agree 100%.
And of course, we're getting ready for the next year. And Kevin, with a little inspiration, we are doing Time Warp 1990 for the year 2025.
Yeah, this was your suggestion. It was a good suggestion. We haven't covered the year of 1990. And when I was doing my research of the notes on this, a lot of these were filmed and worked on in like 88, 89, or delayed a year or two and then released in 90. So it's kind of like the carryover of the 80s films. It'll be interesting discussion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun year of films of the 1990. And hair metal, Kevin. What are you in the League of Hair Metal up to these days?
Yeah, I got my boys, the Hair Metal Council. We love our hair metal music, and we covered the 2001 VH1 Top 40 Hair Bands special documentary, which was a lot of fun, hosted by Dee Snider. And then we did our own top 10 hair metal selection using what we call the sleaze meter. Make sure you watch that and listen to that to figure out what that meant.
I'm still impressed you have that VHS tape. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
And we are having a lot of fun over at Couch Potato Theater. You got your Hair Metal Council together for a special episode of Couch Potato Theater.
Lacey's got her Couch Potato shirt on. Look at that. Like that.
Yeah, there we go. We'll get into more of that later. But Kevin, you got your council together for Spinal Tap?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun celebrating the 40th anniversary of Spinal Tap. In my mind, a perfect film. And then we just recently did The Terminator, celebrating its 40th anniversary. Had my lovely wife on that one as well.
Yeah, it is a lot of Cameron around here at the Fandom Podcast Network, especially on Couch Potato Theater. But we also will have coming out this Friday, as of this recording. Kevin, you suited up the 10th anniversary of one of your all-time favorite films, John Wick.
One of the best action movies of all time, and we get into that. And we had our good friend Norman Lau, one of the original co-founders of the Fandom Podcast Network. It was a great show.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that one. And we're continuing our look at Cameron films because all these films are coming out on 4K finally, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And we're going to dive into Aliens, but not only Aliens, but Kevin, a over 4-hour documentary about Aliens Expanded.
Yeah, a fan-funded documentary, and if anyone that was still alive that was in or had something to do with the movie Aliens was interviewed in that. And it took my wife and I like 3 or 4 nights to watch it, but it was totally worth it. And if you're an Aliens fan, over the Cyber weekend, they were selling some copies they still had left over on the. It's the only way you can get it right now is online, and they're people are reselling them on eBay, and it's not cheap.
I just finished watching it myself. It took me about 5 days to watch it, but there's a lot of great things in there, and it's going to be an interesting discussion on that edition of Couch Potato Theater. Lacey?
And here I am. I watched it in one day. I sat down and I was like, this is what, and I was planning on doing like an hour at a time, like Kevin, you mentioned, and I was like, okay, cool.
David, are you a fan of Aliens at all? Out of curiosity?
Yeah, I became a bigger fan as an adult. I remember watching it as a kid on local TV and experiencing it for the first time, not knowing any like backstory or like the cult status of it, but maybe back in like the early 90s.
So you watched like the heavily edited
It was
commercial
heavily
ones,
edited,
yeah.
but I mean, I was a little kid and I was disturbed by it. I was very disturbed by it. I was like, this is the future.
What's funny about that is that you probably watched the one that turned out to be the extended edition, because to fill up time and with all the commercial breaks, they added some stuff to those broadcast versions that were never in the original theatrical release or the original video release. So you saw some scenes in there that might have eventually made it to the extended edition, because I remember that. So that's cool.
Yeah, I just remember wanting to take a shower after watching that on TV.
A little gooey, Aliens can be, but
Yeah.
and we're continuing our couch potato theater. What we call an instant mash classic. We will be revisiting Deadpool and Wolverine before the year is out. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that, and also continuing our dive into Cameron films. We will be also having couch potato theater, The Abyss, one of my favorite Cameron films. I'm looking forward to talking about that one.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Those 4K releases are gorgeous. I'm just all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then Kevin, you got a couple projects, including our Couch Potato Theater special Christmas film. And I think
we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Johnny Dangerously, which was released in December of 1984. A great comic masterpiece. And Lacey's pick for Christmas movie was The Long Kiss Goodnight. So we'll be doing that one for our Christmas episode.
Yay.
Yeah. And then lastly, as we head into the new year, what do we got planned for Couch Potato Theater, Kevin?
Well, this is your idea. We wanted to celebrate canon films, those classic 80s action canon films. Whenever you saw that Canon logo at the beginning of your VHS back in the late 80s or in the 80s and the early 90s, you knew you were in for a good cheesy time. And we've picked 6 canon films we're going to be doing Couch Potato Theaters on. David, are you a fan of any of these canon films? Are you a canon films guy at all?
I saw Bloodsport a whole lot. Would rent it from the rental place, and also Masters of the Universe. I loved He-Man so much. I loved that cartoon as a kid so much. I love the movie too. And I'm kind of really waiting for some type of live action remake that I think they could really pull off if they do it just right. So
yeah,
patiently waiting.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We got some special things planned for that, and hopefully some things work out. David, you might really want to pay attention to that Masters of the Universe episode. That's all I'm going to say for right now. But guys, we have a few other things to go on here before we dive into Skeleton Crew, and one of those things is
Let's News.
Now, there's not been a lot of news out there, but something happened very interesting over the weekend, and I wanted to bring it to attention to everybody because around here at the Fandom Podcast Network, we're all believers in the movie theater experience. We love going to the movie theater, and it's ever since COVID, it's really kind of been up and down. But I have been personally predicting that 2025 is going to be the year we really truly go back to the movies, and I think it might have started already here at the beginning of 2024 because Thanksgiving weekend, which is a huge weekend for films, set records thanks to basically 3 movies out there. The Wednesday through Sunday tally for films at the box office was over $420 million. That broke the record from 2018 when Ralph Breaks the Internet drove the marketplace to a $315.6 million total. It was a very happy Thanksgiving weekend at the box office for Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2, setting the stage for the record take. Moana 2 led the way, opening with $135.5 million over the 3 days and a fantastic $221 million over the 5 days of Thanksgiving. Those are the best ever. No, those numbers are the best ever for Thanksgiving weekend, blasting past the record set by Frozen 2 in its second weekend in 2019, 86 million over 3 days, 125 million over the 5 days. It also beat Frozen 2's 130.3 million opening weekend to become Walt Disney's animation's best opening weekend ever. That's impressive. they're massive, and they blew past most everybody's expectations, which were about 175 million for the 5-day weekend. So absolutely huge numbers for Moana 2. Wicked became the highest grossing movie based on a Broadway musical over the weekend, but it's now at 263 million and will have the third best 5-day take of 117.5 million over Thanksgiving. And Gladiator 2 held strong, even though it's been out for a few weeks. It's made 44 million over the Thanksgiving weekend. Kevin, we've been having this conversation for a while on Culture Clash, on and off mic. Could this be the start of a true return to the box office? Because these are huge numbers.
It started earlier. I mean, I know movies like the Mad Max movie, Furiosa, didn't do as well as people were expecting, but people did go see it. But it wasn't until like Deadpool Wolverine that really kind of brought people out there. And whether you were chasing the popcorn bucket or what, it got people into the seats to see these films. And the holiday is always a good reason to go to the theaters. I chose not to this time personally. I wanted to finish up my Lord of the Rings extended marathon.
Lacey, I know how much you love going to the movies. I know this news has got to excite you.
I'm very excited. I choose not to go to the movies a lot during Thanksgiving and holidays just because too many people. I get very grumpy when people, text and call, and that's kind of become the norm now. And so to avoid murdering people, I don't do that. I don't go to the movie theater during holidays where I know there's going to be 900 people in the theater. But I do love the movies. I love a good matinee because there are fewer people and I get to see a movie all by myself.
Yeah, when I went to one of the movies, which we'll talk about later, I went on Tuesday, the cheap day. It was $6 for the ticket, and then it was $6 for a small popcorn and drink, so $13 total. I was just like, all right, I can deal with that.
Nice.
What about you, David? Did you hit any movies over Thanksgiving, or you just did more Star Wars coverage?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the movie theater. I had a couple of family members sick in my house, so I didn't want to spread any of that. And but I did kind of contemplate going when my wife and daughter got a little bit better. But still, they were like, "No, we don't want to go." But I'm the opposite of Lacey. I like going to a full house. I like the people. I like to hear the reactions. It's like a focus group type of thing for me. I'm not a studio head, but I like to see what people are saying, what they're thinking. I like to get like the pulse of the culture. But yeah, I wasn't able to see any of these three. I saw Gladiator 2 on a advanced screening. I think that Tuesday before it got released, and I had no idea Moana 2 was coming out because everyone was making such a big deal about Wicked and Gladiator.
I'm with you there, David.
They tried to do the Oppenheimer thing, and they were calling it Glicked or Glicked or something. So I knew about Wicked, and of course it was a huge phenomenon a couple decades ago, and I was like, well, I'll never get to experience that because I never leave Texas, and it's all the way at Broadway, and it's a play. And I just recently learned the story, and of course, a lot of my friends saw it, and they just have crazy reviews, crazy great reviews. When I went to go see Gladiator, the guys in front of us, the two media guys in front of us, they just turned around and said, "This has nothing on Wicked." I'm like, man, it's that good? Okay. And these two big, burly guys were talking about Wicked once Gladiator was over, and I was like, wow, it's that good? Maybe I had to go check it out.
Well, here's the kicker of it all. Disney's original plans for Moana 2 were actually to put it on Disney Plus.
I heard that they wanted to give the old Toy Story 2 treatment before they wised up and released it at the theater.
I think they realized they made the right decision now.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick, David, since you saw Gladiator 2, because we've all seen it, we reviewed it. Just real quick, did you enjoy Gladiator 2?
Yes, I really did enjoy it. I think Paul Mescal did a terrific job. It felt like, to me, Denzel Washington wasn't even acting. He was just kind of being himself. To me, he really wasn't chewing the scenery, but he was on the verge of doing it.
Paul Mescal, by the way, is hosting Saturday Night Live this week.
Nice.
I have to check that out.
Yeah.
Well, with that's going to wrap up the news. So let's transition into what we are all here for. One last time, massive spoiler warnings. We are diving now into the conversation about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So if you have not watched those episodes yet, one final time. Spoiler alert, we are about to dive into Skeleton Crew, and we cannot wait. So without further ado, it is that time. We are here for Culture Clash to talk about Skeleton Crew, the release of the latest Star Wars show. So many things. We've got our schedule, obviously, December 2nd with the first 2 episodes, which we're here to talk about. And this will be running in through the middle of January. John Watt's directing several of these episodes, David Lowery, the Daniels, Bryce Dallas Howard, Lee Isaac Chung, Jake Schreier. Great directing group for this show. You can see here the creators. Oh, everybody's tied into it. Great cast. A lot of hype for this, but I want to ask you guys, what was your excitement level going into Skeleton Crew? What were your expectations for before we even talk about our initial episodes? I want to know what you, before we watched it Monday night, what were you feeling? Were you excited for Skeleton Crew? Were you not sure? Because this has been a show that's been kind of up and down with a lot of the fandom before it came out. People weren't quite sure what to make of it.
Who are you asking first?
Kevin, we'll start with you on that.
All right. I was just kind of looking for a palate cleanser. I wanted something new. I wanted a different perspective. And from what I'd seen from some of the early trailers, I got to the point where I kind of stopped watching newest trailers. I also stopped like reading some of the or watching some of the interviews with some of the cast members because I didn't want to know about the real people yet. I'll start watching those now that I've seen the episode and do a little deep dive. But my excitement was starting to build more than I expected it to get coming up to the show, and David also helped with that a little bit.
Yeah, David, you have the most ties to Star Wars out of anybody here. What was your anticipation level for Skeleton Crew?
It was kind of mixed. I mean, as these Disney Plus TV shows have been released, I've gradually been less excited as each successive series has dropped. I got my first taste of Skeleton Crew back in 2023 in London at Celebration. They showed us a trailer that was just epic. It was so good, just in tone, and it was very, very dark, and everything was at night, and it felt, and of course there was the kids there that were starring, and it was like, whoa, they're getting really dark with these kids. And of course everyone turned to each other and were like, oh my gosh, this is Star Wars Stranger Things. That's what they're doing. But once you saw the episodes, they were way more light. Predominantly took place during the day, and I think it was really par for the course for me. Not too many big surprises. I knew there was going to be a couple of plot points in there that we didn't know about that were going to raise a lot of questions, and I think that's exactly what we got.
Now, Lacey, too, you're coming from a totally different perspective, and I'm just asking you this now before we get into the deep discussion, because you really you binge watch shows. You usually wait, and I know you're fairly behind on the Star Wars shows, but you said that you don't even really watch trailers because you don't like to be spoiled. But you said there was things in there from the little bit of you've seen that intrigued you, and your microphone is on mute before you start talking.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, because I do that a lot. Okay. So yes, I saw about 30 seconds of the first trailer. I managed to skip the first teaser altogether because I know if it's Star Wars, I'll watch it eventually. And I haven't been super interested in many of the TV shows just because I want movies. I want the original saga to continue or whatever. We could have done a lot with the movies we're going to let that go. Okay. So I just haven't, I've watched like season 1 of The Mandalorian. I never watched Kenobi and Ashoka. I haven't watched anything else. Bad Batch, none of them. This, I was like, okay, Explorers is one of my favorite old school, with Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix, and of course the Goonies kind of reference feel to it. And I was trying to figure out because I was trying to figure it out. My friend Tara brought it up. She said it was like space camp. they get trapped and they end up in space, and that's just perfect. And I'm so excited, and that I will watch this. This is the first thing I've watched as it drops. I don't think I've ever watched a streaming show as it drops, ever.
Well,
Fascinating. Looking forward to your extended input. It's gonna be interesting.
Yay!
Well, speaking of extended input, Mr. Reisel, can you access some Jedi holocrons and maybe tell us a little bit about the plot of both the first two episodes that have dropped for Skeleton Crew?
Of course. I'll do a little plot synopsis here for episode 1 called This Could Be a Real Adventure. The life of a pirate couldn't be any further life than on At-Aten, and that's made crystal clear when a cold open full of explosives and blaster fire shifts from start of a mutiny to a tranquil world where children and their parents are just waking up to start their completely average, normal days. Wim, played by Ravi Conyers, and Neil, played by Robert Timothy Smith, are two best friends with very healthy imaginations. Whether they're playing with action figures or pretending to duel with lightsabers, who among us, of course, has not ignited a pretend lightsaber or provided the sound effects of one time or another? Totally relatable. On the flip side, we have Fern, played by Ryan Kira Armstrong, and KB, played by Kiriana Kreider, two best friends who race hoverbikes. And after calling claimsies on Wim's discovery of a mysterious buried treasure, I hate when I get called out on claimsies or, shotgun. A ship known as the Onyx Cinder, the foursome is in for a surprise. At first, mistaking the circular door for a buried Jedi temple, it's Wim who hits the button that sends them hurtling towards the sky in the starship, despite Fern's orders not to touch anything. For seemingly the first time in their lives, they begin to understand how vast the galaxy truly is. But the adventure is just beginning. All right. Second episode, way, way out past the barrier. Fern's penchant for storytelling isn't just for scaring boys anymore. After terrifying Wim and Neil with her tall tales, Fern's storytelling prowess saves their skins when SM-33, voiced by Nick Frost, lumbers into view. The ship's droid is loyal to the last, still serving a long-gone captain, but Fern doesn't even flinch. Who's the captain now? She is, and honestly, we'd follow her on any adventure too. While Wim's dad, Wendell, played by Tunde Abimpwe, is lost in the forest trying desperately to find help after watching his son carried away by the starship. The kids speed to Starport Borgo, where it becomes painfully clear that they are way over their heads. They soon learn something surprising. No one, not even a well-meaning Thelan, believes that they're from At-Aten. Quote, the lost planet of eternal treasure, as she perplexingly calls it. And Wim's shiny lunch money makes him and his friends Neil an easy target for treasure-hungry rogues. Unfortunately, soon all four kids are tossed into a brig along with Snowball, the tiny creature that makes its home inside SM-33 circuits. For a moment, it seems all hope is lost. They're all out of options and out of luck. But then, a mysterious Jod, played by Jude Law, steps out of the shadows. He dresses as a pauper, feet wrapped in rags, but manages to levitate the key that will unlock their cell doors and allow them to make their escape. Can you keep a secret? Jod asks.
Thank you for that, Kevin. And now that we're about to go inside the podcast of Skeleton Crew, I'll call claimsies. So, guys, initial reactions. David, you are our guest. You are the man that behind Star Wars stuff. You had Kevin and I on for your live reaction show the other night, and we had a blast. But I want to know your reactions to these first two episodes of Skeleton Crew. What did they hit home for you? Because I know one of the big things they were playing up was the nostalgia on these, but I found them fun. What were your thoughts?
Very solid start to the series, and yes, it did hit home. What Kevin mentioned with the pretend lightsabers, I did that a lot as a kid. The bikes, the speeder bikes they had, the way they treated them, the way they rode them, throwing them over the barrier. I remember that as a kid. I remember seeing my friends do that for the first time. I was very, very precious with my bike, and I'm like, I don't want to do that, but if I'm going to join you guys, I want to do that. But yeah, very solid foundation. The actors, the child actors, were very good. Great chemistry. Disney released a lot of clips of them interacting, and you could tell that they found a really good group of kids. Also, the Jude Law of it all. I think there were rumors back in the day that Jude Law was going to join Star Wars at some point, and now he's finally joined. And now he has claim to many different nerdy franchises out there. Harry Potter.
Claimsies.
yeah, Harry Potter. What's the other one?
Marvel.
And now Star Wars. Yeah. So.
And Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Sherlock as well, along with Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. It lots of Easter eggs too. Lots of different creatures. I love the creature stuff. I love the practical effects of it all, and all the niche stuff that only like certain people in our Star Wars bubble are like noticing and pointed out, and different things like that. But overall, I thought it was pretty solid. I know they had the premiere at Disneyland a couple days ago, the day before, I believe, the 2nd. And I think that was a first for them, actually. And they showed the crowd 3 episodes, and they released a clip today. And in the UK, they did a red carpet premiere where they showed, I believe, 3 episodes as well. And 4 episodes were actually released to some media, so people have seen up to 4. And everyone that have seen them, of course, have said they're really good, really solid. Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it is, and I kind of thought it was par for the course, is what I expected. Not too many big surprises. The theories, I think, are the surprising thing. That several people that I've spoken to have shared theories with me that almost kind of match, and it's kind of startling how close people have come to their own specific theories on what's going on with Ad-Hatton and the barrier, and what Jude Law his motivations are, and how he ended up in that cell, and so conveniently, but yeah, overall a really good start, and I can't wait to see the rest of the series, how this ties into the overall Star Wars story that Disney has running right now with Favreau and Filoni. And it might be bigger than we all thought. I mean, there's the potential there, because there's a connection with Vane the pirate and the Mandalorian season 3 there. So we shall see leading up to these next few weeks going into January. So I'm excited.
I think that's a fair assessment. But Lacey, I'm coming to you next, because this is a whole new world for you. You see what I did there? A little Disney reference, but
I almost sang that right now, just so you know. If I didn't.
This podcast is a magic carpet ride. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
First of all, because like we talked about earlier, this is your first dive into a streaming show where you're along for the ride from the start. Yeah. Did you enjoy these first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew?
I did. I really, really did. And for the people who got 4 episodes, I almost don't envy them, because they have to wait 4 weeks to see a new episode. If you're going to give me 4, you better give me all, 8 or 10 or 12, however many they're going to do. Because having to wait 4 more weeks, nope, absolutely not. Or 2 more weeks. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see where everything goes. I love that there are some kind of mirrors, between Fern being like a Han Solo character and Wim being kind of the, wants to be a Jedi, that kind of thing, and got the little Luke kind of it all going on. I love the costuming and the little tiny little kids, aliens that you just want to squeeze their little cheeks. They're so cute. So yeah, I'm in. I'm 100%. Like 3 minutes in, I was like, yep.
Kevin, I need to know something from you in particular. Are you going to be the kid who's late for the test, or are you going to be the kid who's going to try to delay the start of the test to make sure your friend gets there on time?
Probably the guy late for the test.
That's kind of what I was figuring. But
yeah,
Kevin, this show represented so much of what we love around here at the Fandom Podcast Network. I can't wait to get your thoughts on these first 2 episodes.
It hit a certain nostalgia for me that I was hoping that we would get, and it exceeded my expectations. I was the thing that I was excited about that it did not disappoint was I wanted a perspective of the Star Wars universe, the current Star Wars universe, because I knew it was going to be held in, the Mandoverse era, so to speak. That not only would we be seeing it through a kid's perspective, because as we get older, we kind of forget what it's like day to day being kids. We have memories of certain events and birthdays and going to theme parks and stuff like that, but we forget about the day-to-day stuff. And I really thought that when it came to this show, it reminded you of the stuff that you did. I mean, how many times did you find anything to make a lightsaber out of it, whether it was the empty tube of a wrapping paper thing or, whatever it was, and playing with your action figures and then you start seeing stuff from these first two episodes that tie into Star Wars in general, little things here, little homages, tying into other series or TV or whatever it is. But still, you have a suburbia setup, which we really don't see in Star Wars, really. And I know they exist. I know that they've talked about it in other incarnations of Star Wars, whether it's the comics or books, whether it's EU or current canon. And it was really nice to I was looking at like the backdrops, I was looking at the designs of the houses, the hover cars and bikes and the buses and that kind of stuff. It all looks familiar, but then it feels Star Warsy at the same time, and that's all I wanted from it. And I got it, and I was completely satisfied with that. It exceeded my expectations, but also it just brought me back to being a kid when I was doing this stuff. I was riding my bike out in the in weird places and trying to find adventure with friends and doing dumb stuff and getting into trouble and stuff like that. And so that it just totally paid off, and it just sucked me right in.
Yeah, it was. For me, I completely agree with everything you said, Kevin. It's the nostalgia factor was so much fun in this. I mean, I should have realized the New Republic would be streaming Steven Spielberg's films in their streaming services, but just the fun of this, taking me back to that time frame of films. I mean, and there were so many little tributes in there. There's absolutely tributes to Goonies in here, which I absolutely love. And just all those things we did as a kid, and it brought you back to that kind of happy place that you had when you were a kid. And I think that's what I loved so much about these first two episodes. And there's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of mystery here. And David, I know we talked about it, and you brought it up in all the theories that are going around there. But between AT-AT and who Jude Law's character really is, what else is going on behind the scenes? And we're going to talk about that some more as we go along. But yeah, without a doubt, the nostalgia factor and just the pure fun of it. And I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical about this show, and it wasn't really until the last two trailers really kind of sold me on it, and really getting that Steven Spielberg Amblin feeling, which they've said is that's what they were shooting for with the show. And I think they've really done so far a good job of pulling it off. And I'm definitely in for this ride. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited about that. But before we get into a few other things here, we've managed to raid some holocrons and pull up some Star Wars trivia. Now, Kevin, I'm going to hand the first holocron to you because you did a little research for this particular piece of trivia and found out some very interesting things. So please dive in.
Yeah, there's been some debate on this species that is Neil. And I'm going to kind of start from where it started to where I've recently found. And keep in mind, this is all internet-y stuff, so how true it is, I'll leave that up to you guys. But maybe David, you can comment off after this. Some say Neil is an Ortolan, the same species as Max Rebo, the band leader of Jabba's palace from Return of the Jedi, although sharing similar features to the Ortolan species, which counts Max Rebo among its most famous examples. Neil and his family belong to an all-new species. In response to fan debate to whether Neil was an Ortolan, same as Max Rebo, Leland Chee of the Lucasfilm Story Group confirmed Neil's species was its own alien race, which was later also confirmed by the series creator, Christopher Ford. Have you heard this at all, David?
Yes, that is 100% correct.
And I'm just going to go on record saying Neil's so cute.
Oh my
I love
goodness.
his family. It's great.
He's
Nice house, too.
And when he's on the bus and he says, "Oh, I don't want to do that again. That was a pain in the trunk." Oh my god!
biggest Star Wars bathtub ever. I think
I love that. That was great.
So Jude Law has a little bit more ties to Star Wars than what people think, because Jude Law attended drama school and was roommates with fellow Star Wars cast member Ewan McGregor. You think Ewan might have put in a good word for Jude for this show? So, Kevin.
The droid driving the school bus in the episode was an RX series. The same series droid was the pilot in the Star Tours ride at the various Disney theme parks, of course, famously voiced by Mr. Pee Wee Herman himself.
Rest in peace.
Yes. As the ship comes into port, a ship similar to Princess Leia's Tantive 4 from A New Hope can be seen. Kevin?
SM-33, the droid, speaks with a Bristol, England accent. 16th century Bristol was notorious for pirates, most notably Blackbeard, and only one of his eyes, SM-33 eyes, is working, suggesting a pirate eye patch, also a home for a cute little furry rodent.
Yeah. And Kevin, you dug up this last piece of trivia too. I want you to share that.
Yeah, I thought this was great too. I didn't catch it at first, but I love the attitude of the kid because it totally fits it. The character of Bonge Falfa, Fern's racing opponent, is an homage to Harrison Ford's character Bob Falfa in American Graffiti 1973, directed, of course, by Star Wars creator George Lucas.
Nice.
That's going to wrap up some of the trivia, but I'm not done yet, because I did some Easter egg digging, because these two episodes were full of Easter eggs. And for all of us longtime Star Wars fans, that opening sequence might have felt just a little bit familiar, because if this is a bulk freighter.
Rest in peace, Captain Antilles.
Attacking a cruiser in the opening scene of Skeleton Crew's first episode was one of the crew members tries explaining to the band of raiding pirates that they have no credits, claiming that they're only a bulk freighter. This prompts Captain Silva to question, if this is a bulk freighter, where's your vault why is your vault magnetically sealed? Combined with the pirates' infiltration and skirmish with the crew members who'd been waiting for them, it's easy to see the mirroring to the opening scene of A New Hope when the Empire attacks Princess Leia's ships, which had claimed to be a consular ship. If this is a consular ship, where is the ambassador?
I just realized what this scene reminded me of, guys, where they just find like the one little credit chip in it after they open it up. It reminds me of The Dark Knight when the Joker steals all the mob money and all there is just one little thing of money left.
Yeah, that'll do it. David, a lot of reminiscing. I mean, I was definitely pulling as soon as this scene started. I was feeling the pulling of what a way to open a show.
Yeah, for sure. When I saw that opening, I was like, wow, how are they going to open this? Because that's one thing as a Star Wars fan I always look forward to. How do they compete with the opening of A New Hope? You know, you can't compete with it, but I want to see how close they can get to the awesomeness and the just kind of possibilities that they have. And they really, John Watts, Christopher Ford did a really good job doing the pan down, and you see the debris and the planet in the back, and then you see the tunnels plunging in to that freighter there. I thought it was a pretty cool kind of like throwback to A New Hope, going onto the ship, and then you show the picture of Vader with Captain Antilles there, and we got to see all the aliens walk in. We got to see Captain Silvo, we got to see Brutus, we got to see an Ishi Tib get his eye shot out.
Yeah.
And that was like really cool. And the other the interesting thing is I don't think we've ever seen someone with a blaster, a handheld blaster, like cock it back like an actual gun. Yeah, and I was kind of surprised by that. That was kind of interesting.
I just want to comment on what you just said, that it felt like we're going to remind you that this is Star Wars.
Yes, that was so Star Wars of them to do. And then, of course, we all knew it's a pirate thing, and of course, we saw all the pirates board. You got to see Jaleel White in the back there as Gunter, and then Brutus at the very end. Big fan of the Wolf Band from the Cantina scene, and he's the Shistavanen race with the pirate gun blasters. Then you got to hear him speak, and then you got to see
the one they removed in the special edition.
Yes,
yeah.
George Lucas removed him, which I don't know what that does to George Lucas when he sees that. Yeah. What were we going to say, Lacey?
it's funny because the first scene where what are we calling the Wolfman? What's his name?
Brutus.
Brutus. Okay, so when Brutus walks in down the hose, when he first walks through, the angle and the way they shot it, and the fact that he kind of takes up the whole space,
Mm-hmm.
he looked like a little he looked like an Ewok. He looked like, I was like, oh, he's so cute. And then it pulled back, and he was standing next to Captain
Silva.
Captain Silva.
and they're the same height. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. I mean, still cute and all, but I was expecting like the little guy to be like just
Yeah, really tough creature design. And you look around like the galley there, and you see Trandoshan, you see Nikto. I mean, you see a lot of the classic aliens that I think us older Star Wars fans were like asking for all the way back in the sequel trilogy. It's like, hey, why didn't we see some of the classics more?
The Ishi
more prevalent?
Tib got me so excited. I love the Ishi Tibs.
Both episodes, I'll just throw this out there. More aliens in these first two episodes. These are the most Star Wars aliens I've seen since the Cantina scene in The New Hope.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, I do have one important question for you. When we see Captain Silva, were you like me? Were you getting a little Cobra Commander vibes with that face mask?
A few of my friends in the G.I. Joe Finest costume groups made that same comparison. I was just like, yeah, go Cobra Commander in Star Wars universe. Loved it.
It kind of gave a little bit of Rocketeer to me. Yeah.
Well, continuing on with the Easter eggs, Wim's action figures. Wim is shown playing with two figures welding red and green lightsabers in Skeleton Crew Episode 1. Thanks to the subtitles, it's confirmed that Wim's figures are a Jedi and a Sith Lord. As such, it's quite unique to see a young child playing with the same kind of toys in universe that kids in real life might play with as well. Yeah, there might have been a lot of Star Wars lightsaber battles, Jedi in there. But I actually think, too, guys, this is actually something very important because it establishes the history of Star Wars involved in Skeleton Crew, and how important what the tales of the Jedi and the Sith are, especially when we consider some of the theories that might be behind AT-AT and David.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of a meta thing in Star Wars that we really haven't experienced before. And I like that they really set that up. And especially this, speaking of trivia, I mean, that's one of the bigger pieces of trivia that just flashed on the screen. John Watts is a huge fan of the holiday special, and he wanted to include that specific scene in Skeleton Crew at this moment when we saw it, but there wasn't a real great way to do the transfer from the holiday special to the 4K release of this. So they actually recreated all of this. This isn't the actual scene. They just recreated the costumes and the characters.
It's so funny. You're reading from my trivia here. You're absolutely right. They had to get actors to recreate this,
right?
The Star Wars holiday special, and I thought it was really. At first, I thought they just kind of captured it's just kind of funny. Like someone had to go back and watch this Star Wars holiday.
Well,
special.
it was well. John Watts was a big fan as a kid. He was a big fan.
This begs the question: since Disney Plus won't carry it or release it or re-release it on VHS or DVD or Blu-ray or 4K, that means one of these guys either went on YouTube or pulled out their own bootleg copy and had to get it, and probably had to do some Google searches as well. But in order to recreate this and also cast the actors and then wardrobe them, I thought it was a great tribute.
So apparently what they did was they actually have the original footage at the Star Wars archive in the big warehouse where they have everything else. So it is there. They do have it. They didn't throw it away. I mean, it's all kind of just there. And
eat it, George Lucas.
And then, of course, they brought out Brutus too, the Wolfman, which George Lucas despised because it looked too much like an Earth type creature. So,
well,
we love you.
If we are talking about the Hollywood's holiday special too, it always allows us to bring up this shot.
Life Day. There you go.
So real quick, I want to rewind back just for a minute, Kevin and Lacey, because I do want to get your thoughts on Wim's action figures and having that kind of surreal moment of like, wait a minute, this would be us playing with our action figures as a kid.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Kyle. And it's not like I go to Target and I catch stuff on sale and I buy toys. I mean, come on.
That's rad.
It's not like somebody here doesn't have their own personal Star Wars action figure.
What are you talking about, Kyle? I have no idea. Yes, right here. There you go. Belkin Deseri, named after me. Long story short.
Incredible.
Lacey, what about you? That between the reference between going back to the holiday special and these action figures, I mean, it's pulling from everything that we went through as kids in Star Wars, and I think that's what the magical connection is here.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things. The first time I watched it, we're not going to talk about how many times I've seen it. We're not going to talk about that. The first time I watched it, I was just kind of blurred through it, just like, this is awesome. And then the second time I watched it, I started kind of picking up a couple little details. And then the next time I watched it, I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. I mean, like the tiny little, so it's one of those things I keep picking up little things, more and more little things. I think this is one of those ones where I might, each time there's an episode released, I might actually watch the full series up to that point each time, just so I can kind of see the through line, because I'm a weirdo and a nerd, and that's okay.
That's a beautiful thing. Kevin, we see what you're holding up there. You're not trying to get us in trouble, are you?
Oh, I'm sure these are official releases of the Star Wars Holiday Special, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
By the way, Kyle, thank you for refraining of when I was holding up the action figure that was named after me. Thank you for refraining for not saying that I was playing with myself.
Well, you just did yourself anyway, so I'm proud of you. Well, guys, continuing on, there's a couple mentions of some familiar planet names in these episodes too. Having never heard of the kids' home planet of Ad Atten, SM33 mentions other planets that sound similar. This includes Atollon, which was the site of the Rebellion's chopper base, as seen in Star Wars Rebels. Aldhani is also mentioned. The planet first featured in Andor during the heist to steal the quarterly payroll for an entire Imperial sector. While Alcor isn't a previously known planet in the Star Wars galaxy, it may or may not be a reference to Alan Alcorn, who is best known for creating Pong. I mean, so we're establishing some planets now that we're familiar with, including things that we recently saw in Andor. So I like the fact that they're keeping the world connected there as well. But
that's called creative tissue. I love that. Connective tissue.
Port Borgo, Kevin's weekend hangout, as we like to say. It's actually a deep Star Wars Legends cut, having first been canonized in 2018's A Smuggler's Guide as a major pirate shadow port near the Hayden Way. Borgo was originally connected to the Rakatan Empire in Legends as one of their colonies. Likewise, it is also worth noting that Port Borgo's position near the Hayden Way means it's relatively close to planets like Mandalore and Navarro, which David might be kind of adding into those theories that Skeleton Crew might be tying into some of the happenings that are going on with other Dave Filoni live action shows.
Yeah, for sure, because we see the pirate Vane, who was under Gorian Shard in Mandalorian season 3, who I affectionately call
a salad pirate, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there is a connection in there. Yeah, it makes total sense what Kyle just read there. It's close to Navarro. It's right in the pocket of the Mandoverse, the Favloni-verse. So this could heavily connect. This might not heavily connect. I mean, it's kind of one of the big questions that we have now for this show.
They're giving us a lot of teases, Kevin.
Yeah, and I think that's smart too. It's nice to stay within the universe, and even the opening, it wasn't a crawl, which was fine with me, but I like how they had the same Star Wars font, lets you know where you were and when. The New Republic still kind of struggling to bring peace throughout the galaxy, and if you're out there on the edges, pirates are still, making it hard for people. And I like that we got a taste of that in the Mandalorian and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it was still kind of hard for people to figure out where this was in the timeline. A lot of people don't know when the New Republic takes place, per se. Yeah, so
please, let's figure out the timeline real quick. Like, do you have like a little snippet for like films, series, and then where this goes so that I can wrap my brain around it?
This is taking place around the same time Mandalorian season 3 is happening.
Awesome.
So to clarify though, Mandalorian era starts around 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
where the New Republic has won, but there's still remnants of the Empire around there, and there's lawlessness still going on. And you also, and then that's where Mandalorian season 1, 2, and 3. And then you said, Kyle, this takes place around season 3 of the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing out there. Is that
David? Have you heard the same?
Yes. Another way to kind of maybe picture it in your mind is Jude Law had been doing the rounds with media interviews, and he referred to it as the 30-year gap. So that's the gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. So that's when it takes place.
There we go.
Cool.
Now, Kevin, we recently on Time Warp talked about Ewok films. One in particular, but we had a Teak ferryman hailing from Endor, leaving their ship outside in space. The kids are taken to Port Borgo by a Teak ferryman. The Teak are a species native to the forest moon of Endor, just like the Ewoks seen in Return of the Jedi. Teaks made their original debut in the live-action Ewok made-for-television movies.
Yes, I believe that was the
holding
second.
It up there. Wait, hold on a second, Kevin. Let me zoom you in so people can.
I believe Teak was in the Battle for Endor, the second film, and he was a very fast creature.
Yes,
and the Wilford Brimley, I think it was Wolf. No, can't remember. Yeah, but anyway, I love Teak. I think it's great. I love they have the throwback to that. And correct me if I'm wrong, David. It was at the second film. Was it Battle of Endor? Teak was in.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Can you flesh out the Wilford Brimley thought? Because I just need to know where you were going with that.
He was in one of these episodes, and I believe it was.
He was in Battle for Endor.
Yeah, he was in Battle for Endor, and he teamed up with the young girl Sindel because like the rest of her family had died, and then there was like an evil witch. And Teak was this cute little creature that helped out, and he ran really fast. And there he is. Look at how cute he is right there. And so, yeah.
I can see the resemblance, Kevin.
And I don't think he had the same accent as he had in Hard Target, but Wilford Brimley was Wilford Brimley.
Yeah. Nobody can match that accent. That's a one-time deal. He could only do it once. However, there weren't all just Star Wars Easter eggs in Skeleton Crew. Oh, no. Because anything that can get a Captain EO Easter egg in it gets some props from me, because remarkably, Fuzzball for Michael Jackson's Captain EO can be seen in one of the cages in Skeleton Crew Episode 2. Captain EO was the 3D short film attraction at the Disney parks beginning in 1986, starring Jackson as the captain of a ragtag group of space aliens. One of these aliens was EO's sidekick Fuzzball, who is now Star Wars canon thanks to Skeleton Crew. Seeing as how George Lucas served as an executive producer on Captain EO, it's a very fun Easter egg in this new Star Wars show, which means Michael Jackson can be a Star Wars figure now.
And who doesn't want a butterfly lemur? I mean, that thing is awesome. Like, I need one. I need like 6. I need some of them.
So I have to ask the panel here. How many of you have actually got to experience Captain EO in person?
Oh,
yeah. I live 2 hours away from Disneyland, and it was one of the best 3D experiences. It was like a 25-minute film. You got a lot of Michael Jackson in, but it was really kind of ahead of its time for the type of 3D that you were watching. Mm-hmm. And I happened to find in the world internet a copy of Captain EO, which I actually bought like about a couple months ago. And now we'll be rewatching it again because I forgot about that little creature.
Kevin, does that work on your 3D TV? Is it in 3D
I don't think it's in 3D, unfortunately. I really, really wish that they would re-release that in 3D. It would be great.
Maybe now they will.
Yeah, you just never know. But yeah, props to the Captain EO. But you know what, guys? We got another Easter egg here. We've mentioned this guy a couple of times already. We've got Vane, Goran Shard's second in command from Mandalorian season 3. He's one of the pirates who tries to take Wim and Neil in Skeleton Crew episode 2. The former second in command to Goran Shard, who first appeared in the Mandalorian season 3. That said, Vane gets beaten down by SM-33, who quickly arrives to save his new captain, Fern, and the rest of the crew. Just more tying into that connective tissue, Kevin.
Yeah, that was actually kind of a crucial thing to do, to let you know where you are. Like if you were not really sure when this took place, but you knew your Mandalorian, and you see this guy going, "Oh crap, that's Vane," and that lets you know that this is on the outskirts and where pirates are everywhere. And obviously Vane has been around for a while, and I love that tie that brings you in like, yep, you're in the Mandoverse.
Greatest set of hair on an alien ever, David?
Does he have hair? I didn't.
I don't know.
Is it a hat? I love the horns.
Yeah, maybe it's a hat, but
yeah, I think it's a hat. But
is he a Nikto? Nikto?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I love the connective tissue. I love it when Star Wars does these things where they connect other TV shows to films or other TV shows or other media. I love that. I always look for that. So yeah, this actor's really good too as Vane.
Yes, he is.
I actually got to run into him at Rebel Scum Con in the Dallas area, and wasn't able to interview him, but I think he'll be back for the next convention, and hopefully I get to talk to him. But yeah, he does a really good job as Vane.
He kind of looks like the angry cousin of the Other from Marvel, from Thanos' timeline. The guy who was on the planet at the end of
the one who had the telekinetic powers.
Yeah, that's who he reminds me of. If he's just like a different tone with a few extra spines.
Yeah, a little better looking, but and lastly, guys, no, I did not do that. I'm having a little technical problem with the slide, but Jaleel White shows up, Kevin, in this as one of the pirates next to Brutus at the end of Skeleton Crew episode 2. And this is what I got a major kick out of. He is the cyborg known as Gunter. Gunter, that rings a bell from something. Did you catch that, Kevin? You're muted. Kevin, you're muted.
Ready Player One is what you're referring to, right? The egg hunters, otherwise truncated down to Gunters. Yes, I caught that. Yeah.
So that was a little fun. Of course, Jaleel White, famous for playing Steve Urkel in the 80s and early 90s sitcom Family Matters.
I assume he's going to get a bigger role, right? Wouldn't you think so, David?
I think we'll see him a little bit more.
I don't think he's one and done here.
David, you're giving me a look over there.
So the TV series, if you guys didn't notice or hadn't read this yet, but the way they are doing these TV series, they're bringing in people into these shows, bringing in actors into these shows, as if these shows continued and Star Wars continued right after Return of the Jedi. So the stars at the time, they're bringing them into the show, kind of like Michael Biehn was brought in. Now with the 90s, you get Jaleel White in there. So it's kind of like a tradition they have. But yeah, I think he's going to last for a few more episodes.
Nice.
Well, guys, that's going to cover the Easter eggs that we've got, but we're not done with our coverage of Skeleton Crew yet. What we're going to talk about next might be the most important thing. We're going to hit a few topics in with this, but Kevin, this is always something very important to you, and that is the fun factor. Or perhaps it's a hot take in there too. You have some thoughts on Skeleton.
Yeah, I want to kind of highlight this cast here. I took a couple screenshots here of them on the interview circuit as well, and I like I said, I've chosen to not watch them before I watch the first episode because I want to kind of get a feel of their characters first before their normal human personalities, And now I'm looking forward to like watching a lot of this stuff here, but they got a great cast together here that I felt just kind of clicked, and they all had their own little things, the way they looked, their personality. We have the I can't remember all their names, but one's kind of got the alpha personality as well. But my favorite though is the two best friends here, and I'm seeing a lot of people really loving Neil, the kind of little ortolan, or you want to call it, elephant creature. I love Neil. Neil's great. He's cute, but I love that these guys are buddies, and you can tell they've been friends for a long time, and it reminds me of people that I know. Everyone that I have seen, whether it's the kid on the other hover bike and his friend, or these kids, I was related to people that I knew, or there was parts of me in them that I related to. And I really think that when you have a cast of kids, you really have to kind of make sure they have chemistry. Maybe before, maybe they did a lot of like test screenings together to make sure. Maybe they had like 50 different kids and to see which ones they test screen together. And I felt that they got the right crew to do this young crew, because I felt that they worked well together. They reacted off of each other well. And yeah, they had moments where they were kind of getting scared, but I felt like they kind of kept their shit together, basically, and one's fast thinking, one's got some tech stuff going on, and that these two, though, best friends here, I just absolutely adored them, and it for me was a huge fun factor.
Lacey.
Yeah, can we just talk about the school stuff for a second? Because I am 51 years old and I don't know algorithms like that, and they are like 9 or 12 or however old, and they're taking these classes or the test that they're taking, which will like basically decide the rest of their life at the age of, what are they, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there, right? At least Ravi and Robert look like they're probably 10 or 12, or at least they look like they're playing 10 or 12. And so talking about, mixing up your sets 5 and 7. And then when his dad asks him the question and he's like, 3.17283. What? No, I know one number like that and it's pi, and I know it to like 5 digits. That's it. Like that's as far as I go with pi. I mean, it's crazy. So I think that really does also show kind of that this is a far more advanced civilization when it comes down to like intellect and knowledge. And the fact that Fern is not only the rebel, the pilot, the Han Solo kind of figure, she's also literally head of the class. So I feel like a lot of the stuff that's getting ready to happen, she's going to be the one who figures out like how to get out of stuff. So which is going to be, I think that's going to be fun. We've already seen that with her, claiming, the captain being, becoming captain of the ship, just, right after he said that he only served the captain. So I think I think there's going to be a lot more of that to come.
Well, you bring up a good point, because it's my fun factor of this show, and that's the mystery. Because there's so many theories and so many mysteries that they've planted the seeds for in these first 2 episodes, and that is one of the things that I'm absolutely loving. Yes, I'm loving the Goonies feeling in the Amblin Entertainment. That whole scene when they're in the master bedroom of the ship and the pirate captain there, I had such a Goonies feel to me, with all the pirate stuff floating around. But there's so many mysteries that they've set up. Kevin, I know you want to weigh in on this.
Yeah, you touched on something I think I want to elaborate on, and I want to get David's opinion on this, because David, when we were on your show, you guys have talked about a lot of the seeds, as Kyle mentioned, that were laid for us to kind of wonder and wonder about. Obviously, the mystery of the planet itself. But I wanted to ask you, David, since you're our guest, which one of these seeds or mysteries really kind of like made you go, I can't wait to see where this thread goes?
It's the whole, like, it feels like Ad-Atten is a hidden planet in the reasoning why it has this barrier told to its society that they cannot go through, and who's behind all that. What's the reasoning behind that? And then, of course, the pirates here at Atten, they know that that's the eternal treasure planet. And it's like, what? It's like a pirate treasure. I mean, hand in hand there. They're all seeking it, so that gives them onus to take these kids like maybe serious. And then they have the Old Republic credits. That's a big thing. So just the mystery of what's going on there. But I think there's actually a deeper mystery. And if you bring up that picture again, Kyle, with the 2 best friends there, Neil and Wim, you can clearly see that insignia on Neil's jacket. And it looks like an Omega symbol in front of like a leaf or a tree. And I think that insignia ties into, I think, one of the bigger mysteries of what's going on in this show. And I've heard a lot of really good theories about it. And that Omega symbol, some people don't think it's an Omega symbol on the surface. They think maybe it's something like maybe the balance of things. and I won't go any further because it might spoil some stuff. But I don't know anything like for sure, but it's a pretty good theory that people have about that insignia. So,
Lacey.
I was kind of gonna bounce off of what you said a little bit, David, with AT-AT and how the planet is this hidden planet with the boundary and all that kind of stuff. It kind of gave me Village vibes.
Yes.
Village. And
we had someone say that on our previous podcast.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting because the one line that I keep coming back to that felt odd in both episodes, the one line that keeps kind of ringing in the back of my head is when her mother, she's a senator, or what does she do? What's her title? I can't remember.
I forgot, but the actress name is Carrie Condon, right? She was actually the voice of Friday for Tony Stark.
Nice. Mm-hmm. But she says, we all have a place in the great work. And so
yes.
The great work, to me, that sounded, at first I thought it sounded like almost cult-like. Like maybe this is some sort of indoctrination or something like that. And so that kind of, and I'm not a religious person, so I think that might just be my hackles going up.
That's what the security droids are for. You know? And like, so wait a minute, I wanted to be an accountant. Yeah.
It felt very, it just kind of felt like if you don't take your medicine, you're going to end up in the dungeon or something. Kind of it felt very Equilibrium or kind of the Village to me. Yeah. Which is interesting. Bryce Dallas Howard was in the Village. Well, connection.
Kevin, what about you? What is one of these mystery seeds that's grabbed your attention?
Obviously, this planet is now a mystery to this pirate community, and I kind of want to know the pirate side of things, because obviously the lunch money was like a little treasure. Like, how'd you get this in such good condition? It's like someone would have to go back in time and buy all those $1.99 Star Wars toys and then take that time travel back and have it like be in good condition. You're like, what? So I'm wondering, like, why is this planet a mystery to the pirates? Why are they looking at it at a certain angle as opposed to what maybe others might? What does this mean to pirates? That's the kind of thing I'm really curious about.
Because how long does it take for a planet to become a hidden planet, right? I mean, how long does it take before people stop looking for it, or after?
Is it like one of those planets that could have been destroyed, or fake destroyed, and then they hit it or something? So yeah,
and it becomes this like urban legend, basically.
Yeah, hey, people have gotten into the Jedi archives and erased planets, so
Just what did happen to the remains of Alderaan?
David, what do you think?
Well, like I said, I heard some really great theories out there that might spoil the show, so I won't really go in depth. But I mean, I'll say this: Skeleton Crew.
Just say it like it's your opinion, and then you'll sound really smart.
Well, I don't want to do that. But it feels like, man, Skeleton Crew can actually tie in and be very, very a very integral piece of the storytelling of the past, present, and future of Star Wars. And it's like, man, if they pull that off, everyone's going to be kind of like shocked and surprised, and it'll make for a great TV show, because then you can like lead up to future events, and then you can lead up to the Mando Grogu movie and the Dave Filoni Avengers film that he's going to do. So
yeah. But still, it could be the little Star Wars show that could. But the one of the other mysteries I'm intrigued about is obviously Jude Law's character. I mean, we are. Is he a Jedi? Is he a con man? There's been that theory thrown around. Is he maybe a Sith user? What's going on with him? But I think one of the other interesting aspects that we have in this tale of Skeleton Crew is the fact that these kids are out in a world that they don't really understand at all. They've been in whatever this shelter is of AT-AT, and now they're out in this. And yes, we've seen Fern act quick thinking on her feet, but she's not used to this world. None of these kids are. In fact, Wim might be the most prepared for it just because of living in his fantasies.
Yeah.
But I think this is also going to be one of the fun aspects of the show, is that growing up that these children are going to probably end up doing across the tale of this, as they see what the real universe is like. And that's I think one of the fun mysteries of the questions is, how does Jude Law character play into this, and how is this going to change these children, and what are they going to find out about their origins and where they're from? And that, I think that's one of the things I'm most intrigued about, Kevin.
Yeah, Jude, I that was kind of low hanging fruit for me. I was just like, I didn't want to speculate too much on it because you feel like he is the captain that gets, the mutiny thing and that, and, but you're kind of curious to see how that comes about, and why did he choose to stay in jail when he's got these skills to get out? Or did he find like, wait a minute, these kids have a ship, okay, now's the time to make my move. Is he a plant? So there's so many questions of like, my brain was starting to blow.
Well, you never know. I mean, Obi-Wan went and, hid out on a planet for 30 years. It could have just been like,
but who hides in a jail, stays longer in a jail when they can easily get out? That's that itself right there is a little mystery to me. I'm like, why'd you wait so long? Or how long have you actually been in there?
3 hots in a cot when you don't have anything.
I don't know. I've seen the food that they serve on that planet. I think I would be finding a way out fairly quickly.
I did love the woman that was like, what did she call them? Lingerings or something? What she referred to the kids. I can't remember. But I love that she was the same species as the Jabba's special edition dancer. I thought that was a really cool shout out there. Yeah.
Well, guys, as we kind of wrap up our thoughts here, as far as this segment covering Skeleton Crew, any last thoughts on these first 2 episodes that you want to get out there, Lacey?
If they don't put this out on physical media, like Toot Sweet, I'm gonna be ticked. This needs a physical media release. It doesn't have to be a freaking steelbook. We put out a regular Blu-ray or 4K edition that doesn't have the steelbook.
It seems like they've been going with the steelbook thing for all of them, and so
no, I just want something that's not going to scratch.
Well, I hear you. First of all, Lacey, I'm just excited that you're watching a Star Wars TV as it comes out, and you're excited for it. My buddy Kat, by the way, he loved the series, but one of the biggest pet peeves that Kat has, and we keep having this discussion, is he hates it when they don't do the Netflix thing and drop it all at once, because he wanted to marathon the whole damn thing. But I'm like, but Kat, for us podcasters, it's great. So I'm looking forward to the journey, as I'm sure you are, David. What are your final thoughts on these first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I'm excited with all these new theories. I'm just really intrigued on where it's going to go. In the latest clip they released, it's very action packed. I think it's for the 3rd episode we're going to get next Tuesday, and I'm super excited to see some classic ships and a lot of space action. But yeah, I think there's promise there for Skeleton Crew. And the other bit of trivia that no one mentioned tonight was the fact that Skeleton Crew is the 2nd most expensive TV show of all time.
Only behind Lord of the Rings.
Can you elaborate on that? Where does that information come from?
It came from somewhere in the ether a long time ago. That's one of the key pieces of information that stood out to me.
Are they filming this in the UK or in LA with the dome thing or whatever it's called?
Oh no, I think this was on site. I think this was out in the UK.
They did some volume stuff, and I know they have volumes in different parts of the world now. So I don't doubt that they shot a lot of it in the UK.
But like Pinewood Studios or whatever it is. Yeah, maybe.
Well, I remember Bryce Dallas Howard mentioning about shooting something and then like going next door. So it might have been shot a lot in California. But it seems like they did go to actual sites for sets and stuff like that. I mean, to be the 2nd most expensive show after Rings of Power, I mean, you figure they would go on location a couple times.
I'm curious now to see if through the rest of the series of where we're going to see where the money went.
It says mostly.
Adam says, by the way, real quick, Adam O'Brien, host of our Lethal Mullet podcast, says, "What's up? What's up, dude?"
Lacey?
Yeah, it looks like Los Angeles and a few other surrounding locations.
Okay, yeah. That tracks.
Culver City, California State University, Dominguez Hills.
What, did Jude Law get like a $25 million paycheck or something? I'm curious to see where this money went.
It has to be the special effects. It has to be
the special effects look fantastic, right? I mean, these first 2 episodes, I mean, the space stuff.
Look at all the
fast,
practical alien costumes. Those aren't
Yeah.
cheap.
Shout out
So-
to my friend Chris of the Ghostbusters Quick Response Unit. Greetings programs. Good to see you, Chris.
Woohoo.
Adam giving his plug for Doom Prophecy out there. The question, the only question we really have is how much spice has Adam consumed this evening?
Let the spice flow.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I'm just gonna say this. I am so in for this ride. The nostalgia factor, the mysteries, seeing what they're just a curiosity of what they're going to bring next. What Easter eggs are they going to give us? Where are these mysteries going to go, and how this is going to tie into the bigger picture? Because I think that is part of the plan here, and it's nice to watch a series for the fun of it, and that's something with Skeleton Crew too. Is it's just, at least through these first 2 episodes, it was fun, especially for, I think, most of us in our age bracket here, to be able to go back to for that nostalgia trip is something special. And I just absolutely am excited for where we're going to go going forward on this. And I cannot wait. But guys, we're not quite done with Culture Clash yet, because we feel it's our service to see a few things and let you know what's going on in the world. So with that, it's time for a little buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Yeah, we have seen a few things around here. David, if there's anything that pops up that you might have seen or have some thoughts you want to throw into, please feel free to interject. But yeah, a little buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Again, spoiler alert, the things we're going to be talking about, we might have a little spoiler 1 or 2 on these things. So be aware. And of course, got to mention our friends over at Letterboxd. We love the guys over at Letterboxd. It's a great tool, especially for Mr. Reitzel to track his insane amount of movie watching that he has. Last week, if I heard correctly on the show, Kevin, you are now averaging more than 1 movie a day.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm using Letterboxd, and shout out to Letterboxd. We all have accounts with them. You can find us on Letterboxd. We'll let you know where that is later. But it's a great way to keep track of your movies all week and categorize them. And it's also, they get their information from IMDb, so they got a lot of stuff there. And I've been wanting to keep track of all the stuff I've been watching. And since January 1st, 2024, I'm now up to 381 films.
I have a feeling if we look at that list, there's a lot of Hallmark there on the more recent aspects.
They're starting to show up more now because it's the holidays.
Nice.
Well, let's get into some things we've seen, and I'm going to kick things off because I actually watched a very interesting film. I had seen a couple trailers of this floating out on the internet. It's out supposedly in theaters, but it's also out for like you can get it on iTunes and Amazon right now. It's kind of one of those streaming and theatrical releases. And that movie is Elevation, starring Anthony Mackie and Marina Baccarin. Now, the trailer of this was intriguing when I looked at it. The description is very simple. It's a single father and 2 women venture from the safety of their homes to face monstrous creatures to save the life of a young boy. There's some interesting concepts here with this. The Earth has been invaded. About 90% of humanity has been wiped out. But the creatures that are hunting them will not go above the elevation of 8,000 feet. So that they have what they call the line. Well, in this story, Anthony Mackie is a single father. His son has breathing issues. So he is having to go into town. They're up in Colorado. So I think they're going into the city of Boulder to find the medical supplies for his son. Marina Baccarin plays a scientist who was trying to figure out a way to stop these creatures from, and ways to help save
Otherwise known
humanity.
as Deadpool's girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Or Firefly, or so many amazing things. But so she accompanies Anthony Mackie on this trip so she can go to her lab because she believes there's something there that might find a way to defeat these creatures. It's pretty intense, and you usually get me with Anthony Mackie. I'm a huge Anthony Mackie fan. I watch anything he's in. It's a solid cast. It's a very solid science fiction film. I could see where, 10 years ago, this would be a direct to DVD release, but it is. I would kind of put it on that level, Lacey, of like Skyline, where it's a solid science fiction film, but it's not probably going to get a ton of hype. But I will say this without spoiling anything, this movie definitely sets up future films within this world. I really enjoyed it. I think for most people, I'd probably say it was a stream it. I personally, because of who's in it and what they do with it, because it does have a little bit interesting twist at the end too. I personally would buy it. I think, but I definitely recommend it as a stream it.
I noticed that it says from the producers of A Quiet Place and The Purge. So yeah, some good movie makers there. So yeah.
Yeah, and like I said,
Anthony Mackie is hilarious. Like he's just, it's nice to see that he's doing something that is more dramatic, it seems, because a lot of times he's got, that comic sort of timing that I like the idea that he might be in something that's a little bit more solid. Not, that sounds wrong. But dramatic.
Yeah. Adam O'Brien dropping some news here. Gladiator 3 confirmed by Sir Ridley Scott. So not surprising considering the success of Gladiator 2, but
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He set up a good world there. So yeah.
Yeah, that he did. Now, Kevin, we've mentioned this movie a couple of times. It's blowing away things in the box office. Lacey, you talked about seeing this a couple episodes ago. Of course, you landed all the fancy popcorn buckets and everything. But Kevin,
she had all the popcorn buckets.
I popcorn bucketed my way through the year. I did.
You had special orders to go see this movie.
Yeah, so my wife went to go see it at one of our favorite theaters. She's in Australia right now, and she sends me a message saying, "You must go see this movie." And I took that as you better go see this movie. And that was a wise call. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I wasn't going to go see it in the theaters. I was going to wait for streaming. And one of the reasons why is because it was part 1 of 2, and part 1 was 2 hours and 40 minutes long or something like that.
Yep. And
so I asked her, I'm like, yeah, but it's 2 hours and 40 something minutes. And then she just replies, "It moves." So I said, all right, because we're both sticklers about really long ass movies. We both caught each other nodding off in films and stuff like that if it's too long with it. But I'm glad I did. I went on Cheap Tuesday though, $6 for a movie and $6 for a small popcorn and soda. And I might have looked at my phone maybe once. I might have nodded off during one of the singing things. But I did stay through it, and I actually overall did enjoy it. I got to say right now, give the Oscar to the set decorator and the costume designer right now. It was amazing. I never saw the original play. I've never been to any version of Wicked, but I did recognize some people that were in this movie that were part of the Broadway and theater run. Like I was great to see Kristen Chenoweth in a scene. I had issues with how the wizard was portrayed in a negative light because I'm not familiar with the Wicked story. I know it's from a different perspective from what I know from the original Wizard of Oz. But I'm really curious to see what happens in part 2, which I guess is coming out next year around the same time. Performances were great. Ariana Grande surprised me. I thought she was good. I'm going to quote my wife saying, "I really wanted to just pick her up and put her in a little bottle and keep her."
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And she surprised me. I've always, I thought she was a good pop star. She's got a good voice, but in this series of songs that she sings, you really get to see the range of her voice. And I know her from some of her pop songs, but more of her funny stuff that she does on like the Jimmy Fallon show, where she does those singing competitions and she does impersonations of other famous singers. And she's darn good at doing that.
Crazy good.
Yeah. As for Wicked, it's definitely worth buying and seeing it in the theater if you're up for that. And it did move. It didn't drag as much as I thought it would. And but it also could be a stream it if you want to kind of wait and see, because I'm sure it's going to drop somewhere streaming soon. But if you're in for a good holiday film, definitely buy it.
I just want to throw this out to Ariana Grande. Her SNL episode is one of the better, more modern episodes of SNL too.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah.
And Drew Barrymore brought her to tears day before yesterday when she had an interview on her talk show, and they brought out the original Glenda wand from the Wizard of Oz, and she was like visibly shaken. Just like,
the funniest line in Wicked is when, because she's used to getting her way. She's kind of like the spoiled rich girl, basically, portrayed. And she's like, "Oh," it's like, "What's wrong, Glenda? I didn't get my way." That's pretty funny.
Well, next up, Kevin, something you and I both watched, and say what you will about Yacht Rock, but if you watch the documentary that just came out as part of HBO's Music Box series, we might have learned that Yacht Rock might be the foundation for most music from the 80s forward, Kevin?
My wife was really looking forward to this, and this is really kind of her wheelhouse. She really loves the yacht rock genre, and yacht rock, of course, was named in the early 2000s by an early YouTube skit troupe group, and they interviewed those guys, and they coined the phrase yacht rock and what music is considered yacht rock. And of course, one of the most famous yacht rock musicians is Michael McDonald, and he is interviewed all over this documentary and how influential he was. And you learn about people that were in the band Toto. You learn about
John Williams' son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also Mr.
Cross.
80, yeah, Christopher Cross and Mr. 80 soundtrack himself, Kyle.
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins had no idea how entrenched he was wasn't referred to as a yacht rock singer at the time in the 70s and early 80s, but he had a huge career of just writing songs with people like Michael McDonald and all the people that he worked with prior to him breaking out as Mr. Soundtrack guy. I loved that you had like Michael McDonald talk about him being high on acid while he's doing this, and
Christopher Cross
was like, yeah, Christopher Cross was selling weed on the side to do this, and he was high on acid by writing this song and that song. And there is a Star Wars connection from this documentary, guys. Is the very now famous bass player, Mr. Thundercat, was in Book of Boba Fett as one of the mod characters that was doing the mod changes and additions in that little story streamline they had in that. And he talked about how yacht rock really influenced him, and it influenced him so much that he was able to get Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins together and record more recently about it. And one of the funniest scenes in this yacht rock documentary that I completely forgot about was what's his name from Honey, I Shrunk Your Kid, Rick Moranis.
Mm-hmm.
He was in SCTV, which is the Canadian version basically of Saturday Night Live. And he did a really funny skit back in the day where he was Michael McDonald racing from recording studio to sing a little bit here, racing to another one and another one. And apparently Michael McDonald saw that by accident while he was high on acid, laughed out loud. And years later, Rick Moranis met him and apologized to him about that. And he says, no, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. My wife and I have gone to a yacht rock tribute band called Yachtly Crew here in the United States, and they show them performing. And then when I was in Australia, we went to go see another yacht rock group. It's taken over. And if you're of a certain age, whether you liked it or not, it's still embedded in your DNA as being around a Gen Xer.
A couple of things that I really pulled from this documentary too is really Steely Dan and Michael McDonald really did lay a foundation for music that carried through so many different types of music through the 80s and 90s, including a massive influence on hip hop, Kevin.
Oh my God, yes, they get into that. Hip hop was heavily influenced by it, and there were some huge hits that came out in the 90s of like gangster rappers that were using Regulate basically, Warren G. And what they're pulling from here, and it's just amazing. And then you get to see the reaction that these yacht rocker musicians like Michael McDonald and how they feel about how things are now. And even if you're not a fan of the genre, it's really important to see for reasons. And I like the fact too that the opening concert they were showing was actually a real concert that was filmed in my hometown here in Santa Barbara. So yeah.
There's even a great, probably about 5-minute section of this about Toto's song Africa that is just hilarious. And just like you find out that it was a song that the band just threw away. It was like the last song on the backside of the LP. Nobody goes that far, and yet it was one of their biggest hits. And they talk about it. It's hilarious. The only other thing that might be just mind blowing about this is the clothes they were wearing.
Oh God, yeah.
The leisure shoots were in pant.
It is. It's streaming on Max. It's definitely a stream it. So make sure you check it out. Even if you're not familiar or a fan of the music, there's some history making stuff that's in this.
Yeah.
Guys,
Also,
oh, go ahead, David.
I wanted to point out. It says from executive producer Bill Simmons, who's a big podcaster actually on the sports side of the house, and he has his channel, The Ringer, and he also did an awesome Woodstock '94 documentary as well on Max. And
Kyle, do you care to elaborate more on that?
Oh yeah, I have been a big Bill Simmons fan going back to his days as a sports guy with ESPN. So I have
PTI?
followed his career through Grantland, to The Ringer, and
Yeah.
it's a fabulous podcast network. They're doing YouTube stuff now. He's got a great show called The Rewatchables. He has his own podcast where he talks a lot of sports, but he talks a lot of pop culture too, and it's excellent. Kevin?
Kyle, you mentioned the Rewatchables podcast. If you are a movie fan, you need to listen to this because he's a huge movie nerd, and he's gotten some good guests on it as well. And they have some really fun categories that we may have borrowed a few from our network.
I will say this too, Kevin. One of their other shows, The Big Picture, which is like a little bit more on the artsy side and Oscar film side, but their most recent episode was one that you would want to check out. They rate their top 5 World War II movies.
I know. I'm gonna listen to that. And by the way, David, you had mentioned that Woodstock '99. That was a great documentary.
Yeah, it was
scary too, but good. Yeah.
It was actually a whole series that he did. I think they did like 4 or 5 of the initial Music Box documentaries that Bill Simmons was a producer on all those. The thing about Bill Simmons, he's the one who basically created 30 for 30.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. Those are fantastic.
Yeah, and some of the most fantastic documentaries out there. But guys, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a smell that was in the studio after last week. It smells like a Hallmark store in here, and I think I know the two people to blame.
David, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm an unapologetic fan of Hallmark movies.
Wow.
I've been watching them for years and years. I love the formulaic thing that they have. They're so predictable, but you want to find out how part A gets to part B. I can't get it. I can't get enough of Hallmark films. You throw me you're finding your prince and princess and the rock star or TV star that goes back home for the holidays. I eat that stuff up all the time. And
so did you get to see the Katie Sackhoff Hallmark movie?
Which one was that one?
She just filmed it, I think, with her husband, who wrote it and executive produced it.
You have colored me very intrigued.
I think it came out last year.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I want to say it's like there's a farm. It's like she goes back to the farm or something.
Oh, I've never heard that theme before.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, so just to explain to you what happens here is around this time of year, there's a disturbance in the force, and it becomes so powerful that
David's so sick of me right now. I can tell he's just like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I didn't know this. I thought I knew him. I didn't know him at all. But Kevin, I have to give him his space for Hallmark movies during the holidays. It's the only way to keep him in check. It's a little bouncy.
I love the fact that Lacey's with me on this, so I got an ally in this.
Yeah, I am a lot number now, so I might need the rest of the year, David.
So I've decided to highlight a Hallmark film for the holidays on these Culture Clash ones, and one came out last year, and we talked about a few yet on last week's episode because Lindsay Lohan is having her Lohan-assance right now with her Netflix deal, and she just released her newest film, so she's back now. But the movie I wanted to highlight actually came out last year, and that is A Merry Scottish Christmas. If you are a Party of Five fan from the 90s, we have a Party of Five reunion here with Lacey Chabert and Scott Wolf reunite for A Merry Scottish Christmas. They play siblings in this, just like they did.
Thank God.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would be way too creepy if it was anything else.
No, that's why I had to say that. They play siblings that are a little estranged, but they find out that their mother, who is of course Scottish, has this castle estate in Scotland, and there's some issues, of course, but you can kind of see where things are going. They have to save the castle, and they have to get together as a family. And it was really nice seeing these people work together. But wait, hold on. What does Chris say? Kevin is an enigma wrapped in a conundrum, wrapped in a Raiders jersey. Oh, Chris, you know me all too well. I miss you, brother. But yeah, so they just so you know, though, I guess they didn't go to Scotland to film this. They filmed it in Ireland instead. which I was a little disappointed by. But they filmed it at a real castle. The sets are great, and there's some good supporting cast. And if you want to just turn your brain off and watch a predictable Christmas film with Party of Five alumni, I highly recommend it.
I just want to throw this out to Chris too. Kevin does have a challenging Hallmark year this year because one of Hallmark's new Christmas films it is Kansas City Chiefs based, and I've told I've tested him. He's under the test, Chris. Which is stronger, his love for Hallmark or his hatred for the Chiefs?
And it actually stars my favorite Hallmark guy, Tyler Hines.
Yeah. So
wait, this one here, or are you talking about the Chiefs love story thing?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's called what? Countdown Christmas or something? Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah. But yeah, just an update on the Katie Sackhoff Hallmark movie, Christmas Sale. That's the title of it. Came out in 2021, so it wasn't last year.
A Christmas
and it also
Sale.
stars. Yeah, well, just Christmas Sale, like a sailboat. And Terry O'Quinn, I believe, is Katie Sackhoff's estranged father that she goes to her back to her hometown.
I'm writing this down right now, David. So thank you very much.
You're adding to you're adding to the problem. You're not helping. Okay, guys. With that, it is time to close out this episode of Culture Clash. And you're missed, Kevin. I think that's sweet.
I was hanging out with Chris. He was part of my G.I. Joe group as well. And 501st, yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, missed troop.
Well, there's been a very fun episode of Culture Clash covering all the news, reviews, and of course everything that is Skeleton Crew. I want to, of course, thank everybody who's here. David, especially you for joining us.
Yeah, buddy.
To have you as part of the family here. You know you're welcome anytime, but we love having you and your Star Wars knowledge on the show.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Of course, Lacey and Kevin, they're going to go off and watch some Hallmark movies before we get done with this. But yeah, we have been talking Skeleton Crew here on the Fandom Podcast Network and Culture Clash, and it's been a fun ride. But there's a lot of places you can find the Fandom Podcast Network, and if you're looking, of course, if you're watching live, thank you for watching on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, and share us out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, maybe you found it at our home at fpnet.podbean.com, or maybe you're listening to it on one of those great podcast catchers out there, whether it's iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or so many more. And of course, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Twitter, on Instagram, on, of course, our great Facebook page. Also, we're expanding out there. And Tara, yes, you're very welcome. Thank you for watching and joining us for this, and all your comments, and to all those listeners out there and viewers who've been watching out there. I am Kyle. You can find me on Facebook, Kyle Wagner. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW. You can find me on Threads and Instagram at AKyle or at AKyle Fandom, and you can find me on Letterboxd at KSport16. Kevin, where can people find you on social media?
All of those you can find me at Spartan_Phoenix. Blue Sky, I'm at Spartan Phoenix.
Lacey, I believe you're panted all over the place.
Yes, I am all of the pants. Lacey Pants, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm the Lacey Pants. But everywhere else I am everywhere I'm Lacey Pants except for Instagram, which is the Lacey Pants. And don't forget Discord and Blue Sky and all those places. So Threads.
Yep. David, where can people find Star Wars stuff, and where can they find you out there on
Star Wars Stuff Podcast on every social media platform? Just look for the logo. The names are a little different everywhere, but just look for that logo. So
X your Stuff Pod, right?
Yeah, X Stuff Pod and Instagram. SWS Podcast. But I think you can search the old way too. We kind of like re-engineered our Instagram. So
Gotcha.
And of course, too, it was mentioned here a little bit, but yes, the Fandom Podcast Network is now on Blue Sky. Where can they find us on Blue Sky, Kevin?
At FanPod Network.
And you can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW as well. We're just getting on there, so please join us, send us some friend requests and follow us, and we'll have a good time on Blue Sky as well. And finally, it is the holiday season. And, if you're looking for some gifts out there, you're a fan of the Fandom Podcast Network, or somebody you know is a fan of the Fandom Podcast Network, visit our TeePublic store. We have all the gear of the Fandom Podcast Network, whether it's Couch Potato Theater, our main logo, Lethal Mullet. We got hats, we got mugs. There's also pillows, there's tapestries, there's phone cases, stickers, all kinds of stuff at our TeePublic store. And we most of it goes right back into here to keep the lights on and keep things running. Hyperdrive Fuel is expensive, guys. I'm just saying. David, you know a little something about that, I believe. But yeah, visit tpublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network, or type in the name of your favorite show on the Fandom Podcast Network, and you'll find the gear there. So again, we appreciate the support. This has been a wonderful episode, guys. I think it's safe to say we're all extremely excited about what's coming for Skeleton Crew and really enjoying the ride right now. A special thanks to everybody on here, Kevin, Lacey, David. Again, thank you for joining us. We will be continuing our coverage of Skeleton Crew as it comes out. And just for those who are listening, normally if Culture Clash Live is Friday nights, but for the run of Skeleton Crew starting next week, Culture Clash Live will be Thursday nights at 8 p.m. So please join us for Skeleton Crew. Follow, buy it, stream it, and see it, and we'll try to keep you up in the news too. There'll probably be a little more Hallmark for those of you out there too. I am not changing the name to Hallmark Clash though, Kevin. It's not happening. But with that, thank everybody out there. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Christmas season is here. Enjoy it. Enjoy your families. Enjoy your friends. And as always, respect each other. And most importantly to everybody out there, enjoy your fandom. We have done this thing and we are out of here.